One of the things that I've become known for, I don't consider myself the founder of controlling phase, but I think I've one of who's made it popular in the last 10 years. Everyone's familiar with seeing an amplitude versus frequency response. Everything has a phase versus frequency response too. When, for instance, you have a direct signal, so it's electronically going through to your workstation or your tape machine, and you're not EQing it, then you have your direct signal that's pure. Now, when you have it running through, for instance, someone's bass cabinet, let's say you're using an MPEG SVT, and the bass player might be EQing the signal. Not only that, usually the bass cabinet has a very odd, well, I wouldn't say odd, but it's just a phase response. Everything has a phase versus frequency response as well. So with the IBP, it allows you to compensate for that. But keep in mind, when you're adding EQ, you're varying phase. When you're running through a mic cabinet, you're varying phase. There's so many parameters involved that you basically want to get it in phase as much as you can, but nothing's perfect. If you look over here on the oscilloscope here, here we have 400 hertz sine wave, and here they are totally in phase with one another. You can see when they're summed together, there's an increase in level, as there should be. So here we are with the IBP at its null point at the very far counterclockwise position. When you have two microphones on it, like say a room mic, and you have a mic on a kick drum or a tom-tom, for instance, you're going to get a degree of cancellation between the two. As you can see, this is just like moving the mic. You can see that it's going to cancel the signal somewhat. Mind you, we're looking at a sine wave, not a complex music wave. I'm using the simplest form to explain this. But you can see what the IBP does. It's just shifting the phase. What it allows you to do is do the final tweak. And you can, yes, you can move the microphones to do the same thing. But this is sort of like the fine focus on the microphone. It would allow you to get that just a little bit extra in phase that you're looking for, or for that matter, out of phase too, because sometimes you want the things to cancel to make it fit in the track better. My dad actually, when it came to the me playing with different designs for shifting phase, like what's in the IBP, and I was doing researching everything I could on it to find something that would be a little different than just a feedback phase thing, and he just wrote on a piece of paper, why don't you do it this way and do it passively, and which is the way it's done. The phase adjustment is completely passive. It does use gain makeup, because you lose 6 dB of gain for each one of these all-pass filters that are in the unit, but I think that's one of the reasons why it's got a good reputation for sounding good, because I think other people have attempted this, but they've done it with feedback. It just doesn't sound good. The IBP stands for in between phase, because my slogan was, if you can't get it with 0 or 180, you need to get in between phase. We're going to go check out another friend of mine, David Boucher, who's working with Randy Newman at Sunset Sound, which was one of the classical studios of Hollywood. David is a really interesting engineer in his technique that he uses. He likes doing things in a very untraditional manner, and I really admire his unorthodox technique.
I'm recording Randy Newman right now with my new Élément Prise from Jonathan Little. And I guess I first found out about Little Labs assisting for Bob Clearmountain, who is a dear friend of mine. He had some boxes that Jonathan made specifically we've always known Jonathan's products to be of a high quality. The PCP distro box has always been a good friend of mine, and for guitar pedals and reamping, and the IBP is, almost you can't do a session without it these days if you want to really fine-tune your sound. And now the Élément pre's have the IBP in them, and the pre sounds fantastic. I did Randy's last record. Just finished an Indigo Girls album this past year. Yeah, I can't remember them all.
You're a busy boy.
Yeah, did Randy's last one. Working with Randy especially, you learn how an arranger can really voice a piano with his hands to make the right notes serve their purpose within the chord. It's just, if any note is on the piano is too hard or too soft and doesn't follow the rest of the piano, the chords kind of fall apart. He's incredible. It's especially on a session like this where you have Mitchell Froome and Greg Cohen, Steve Donnelly, and Randy. It's like being around 4 musical geniuses at once. They can all hear every note and spell every chord and argue over which hand should be playing which color tone, and which of those color tones the guitar should bring out, and where the bass should lay and how much room it should take. And it's like 4 arrangers in the room, and it kind of makes you feel small, but it definitely makes you you hear when they change something, and it's like getting an education working with these guys.